it's the proudest day and the proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all was said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the Rally Podcast, episode 35. Delighted to be once again joined by Connor Edwards. Connor, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to be here.
Excellent. So, once again, overwhelmed by the response to last week's show. The figures are just unbelievable at the minute. Can't thank you all enough. So please continue to like, share, rate the podcast. The last few weeks has really proved to us, what the difference that makes. So really appreciate it, and please keep doing it. This episode, we will look forward to Rally Spain with Grace O'Brien. She's going over there to do the ERC part of that with young Ryan Caldwell. And we'll also catch up with Tim Hort from Michelin to sort of discover the black art of tarmac tyres. So that's very interesting as well. But this weekend coming up, the Wyedean Rally is on air in Wales. Michael McDade and Declan Casey are chasing the BRTDA Historic Championship, as well as the Welsh Historic Championship as well. So we're wishing them all the best. Also in that event, then, Gary McHaney is out with Seb Perez and a new historic spec Porsche. So that'll be interesting to see how them two get on that. Now that'll be cool to see something a wee bit different from the Mark II out in the forest as well. And then Rally Legends. I know it's one of the events that has to be on the bucket list, Connor.
Oh, definitely. It's I've thought about it for the last few years and never been able to get, mainly because it's so close to WRC Spain. So definitely Rally Legends. I think next year, now that it looks like Spain isn't going to run next year as part of the WRC calendar, I think Rally Legends is calling. It's long overdue.
Yeah, and Frank Kelly's back there again, himself and Lauren. How we be going out to slay some tires, to use the American term, and Paulo Diana is going to be there in the Fiat 131. It's we know the lineup of cars does be there every year. It's just it's mouth-watering, mind-bending. I don't know, the superlatives fail me at the minute.
Oh, look, it's just a phenomenal event, and it's just a chance to see history driving past you, from a rally perspective. And, they've gone and done it. They've got the world champion.
Yeah. Young Kelly is going to be there, and Jari Mati's Celica, the 165, and then Jari Mati himself is going to be there in the 185. That alone, you wanted to go to Spain or go to Italy for that alone, never mind, And then, you've got Jimmy McRae going to be out in an Impreza. And think it's the best Impreza that the guys from Rally DNA featured the owner there a couple of weeks ago. And the Rally DNA guys are going to be out there, Kelly and Jamie. So no doubt they'll come back with some fine stories along the way as well.
Absolutely. And then, you're Walter Rohrl as well. I would give anything now to go and see Walter.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we won't be too many more years now where we'll be getting into a car and driving around. So,
and Mark Whelan and other legends.
Yeah, true, actually,
that's going to be fascinating as well. And then, our own Martin Brady is going to be there as well, partner up with Kyle Tilley again as well too. And Kyle's been turned into one of them drivers that you want to see as well. Very spectacular as well. And I'm sure Martin will have plenty of stories next week then as well. So
yeah. I'm throwing into the mix. There's a couple of rallycross cars there. PG Anderson's out. What do you call it? Ollie Vibey's out as well. So
yeah, that'll be we always look at the videos, we see the photographs, and every year you're drooling just watching them, aren't you? So Rally Legends is the place to be this weekend, I think.
Yeah, definitely is.
Yeah, and speaking of legends, Connor,
speaking of legends, indeed. So the O'Brien name, legendary amongst Irish rallying fraternity. What do you call it? I was speaking with the daughter of James O'Brien, young Grace, who is heading to Spain next week to compete with Ryan Caldwell. So they're going to be competing on the ERC part, which is basically the Friday and Saturday stages of Rally Catalunya. The same as the WRC stages, so they're just going to be competing over the Friday and Saturday, and that's the final or concluding round of the ERC. And I caught up with Grace earlier just to have a chat. So Grace, father is well-known co-driver James O'Brien. At what point did you decide rallying, and in particular co-driving, was going to be for you?
I suppose it is a sport that, look, I've always grown up in. I would have followed Dad throughout the years, would have been there at all the events. And obviously, as you progress through, sitting with Liam O'Callaghan in the Sleeka and then moving in with Andrew Nesbitt, and they were some phenomenal years, in fairness. I did actually learn quite a lot from hanging around and then actually becoming part of the team. So then I would have started competing myself just for fun with some friends, and just went out of the weekends and just enjoyed myself. But I suppose when the opportunity came, that Motorsport Ireland were developing an academy with navigators in mind, I thought, you know what, this is something I would very definitely enjoy, because, you know, I enjoy the sport as it is. I do like to put a bit of work and preparation into it. So this kind of fit nicely. So once I entered the academy, then I thought, right, okay, we'll give this a go. And so far, so good.
And you mentioned the MI Rally Academy there, and like, it's a fantastic program. But for anybody who's unfamiliar, can you give us an oversight of, you know, what you do there, what sort of mentoring and coaching and trainings available from MI?
Yeah, so I suppose there's no real formal training, I suppose, when it comes to navigating or even driving, really. It's a case of go out with some friends at the start and just get a feel for it, enjoy it, you know, marshal some events. But when you enter the academy, you know, there is a bit more of a structure. So there are mentors. So it is spearheaded by Greg Shinners, and the mentors include Paul Nagel, Killian Duffy, Rory Kennedy, to name just a few. And then obviously on the driver's side, they have, I suppose, amalgamated the program to include the navigators. And there then we get, I suppose, mentor and guidance regarding nutrition, the exercise. You know, Alan Heary would be our coach then. So it's fantastic to have the two sides together. And then when it comes to the navigating side, obviously we have specific workshops. Then we sit down and, you know, go through particular aspects of events. You know, your pre-event preparation, then things like looking through, you know, regulations, you know, funny looking time cards, all those little things, any queries and questions. And then obviously there's a little segment on writing pace notes. And I suppose the best way and the guidance. And by having all the different mentors, you're getting different, I suppose, a different outlook, and everybody brings something to the table, really. And it is fantastic. So it is really pooling all the resources that they have and tapping into their knowledge and expertise, basically, to give you the best possible solution. And
just moving on, I suppose, to bring everybody up to date. So you partnered with Ryan Caldwell last year, late on, and you did a couple of events in the Opel Adam. How did that partnership come about, or you know, or how did you know you get the call to you know, obviously you're bringing more experience to the table to assist Ryan with his early start into rallying?
Yeah, so it's always a bit like how we all start, really. Sometimes just a phone call. So I did get a message from one of the event organizers saying that there was this young aspiring rally driver, and he was looking for somebody with a little bit of experience to help and guide him through his first few events. So we made contact, and I said, look, we'll, you know, see how we get on with this first event. So Bushwhacker Forestry in the Opel Adam. And we got on great. He had an absolute ball. We got to the finish, which was the objective. And then, you know, he got a taste when he wanted a bit more. So we said, right, this year we kind of, not that we no real plan, but at the start of the year we said, right, we need to do as many events as possible, get as much experience as possible. So both on tarmac and in the woods. So we targeted the Irish Tarmac Championship. Purely because they're 2-day events, 2 and 3 day events, so they're quite tough events. So mainly to kind of build up stamina and experience. And in the woods, you know, you can have a lot of fun in the woods. And Ryan is particularly fond of the gravel. So basically, they were the two championships really we tackled, and thankfully they were quite successful this year.
And both those championships you did in the Fiesta Rally 4. How did you get on in both championships?
Very well, to be fair. We started the year in the Rally 4 in Galway. We actually won the class. And then as the year progressed, we found that, okay, we're not too shabby at this. We were getting the results, and we found ourselves at the top of the leaderboard quite early on. So we stuck at it, both forestry and the tarmac, and basically guided Ryan to tarmac Rally 4 champion this year, and I suppose the equivalent class in the forestry championship this year.
Grand. And next year, or sorry, I was going to say next year, I mean next week,
Yes.
You're going to Spain to compete in the ERC at Rally Catalunya. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I suppose the prize really for competing and winning the Rally 4 class in the Irish Tarmac Championship was a round of the ERC Championship. Now, what was advertised, the Czech Republic, was a week after Ulster, so timelines were quite tight. And it just so happened then that the last round of the ERC is basically Rally Catalunya, Rally Spain, which is around the World Championship. So look, it's fantastic that we get to do a round of the World Championship, well almost the full rally. But yeah, that's really how we ended up there. It really is. It's a fantastic end, and hopefully will be a fantastic end to what's been an incredible year, in fairness. So preparation, there's a lot of preparation gone into this. It's very different from just preparing for the Irish Tarmac or Irish Forestry Championship.
And can you give us a taste or a flavour of what sort of preparation you have been doing? And I suppose, you know, has your dad come into play here? Has he been offered advice? Because obviously he's got quite a number of European stages and competitions under his belt as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I suppose as part of the academy this year, I've been very fortunate to work with, I suppose, look, you do have Dad, and then there's Paul Nagel, who is, I suppose, competing in his final event at the World Championship with Craig. It will be sad to see him go, but it's fantastic that James has got the call up. But I have actually been working with Paul throughout the year on some of his event preparation. So I've been given a little bit of an insight. So it's not, you know, completely out of the blue. So everything from preparing like a recce schedule. So if you look at the regs of a World or European Championship, you have to, I suppose, prepare and you have to recce them in a particular order, and you've got so much time. So, you know, we've worked on recce schedules, we look at fuel schedules, tire schedules, a lot of different schedules. There's quite an itinerary to put together. A lot of people involved in that, and I've been very lucky that I've been working with M Sport Poland as well. So they've been helping with a little bit of guidance, and of course I've been tapping into that as well. So there's plenty help out there for us, thankfully.
And has it been a case of, you know, watching a lot of videos, you know, some of the stages are repeats from previous years?
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of stages are repeats. There are a few new stages to this, but in fairness, Josh Macklin has been very good with his time as well, and the likes of Brian Hoy. So they've been very helpful, you know, considering where their expertise lie. And giving us a bit of guidance. So yes, definitely a lot of watching in car, watching, you know, the videos that the organisers actually give us, and then tying that in with onboards from previous years kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. It's very fast, very smooth asphalt, so should be nice.
And I suppose what's the objective or what's the goal? Is it just to get experience against, you know, the European and world competitors? Is it to benchmark, you know, yourselves? What are you looking to come away from Spain with?
I suppose it would really be to benchmark ourselves. Obviously, go out, get the experience, prepare as much as we can now so that we can actually enjoy the event too. But definitely benchmark ourselves against the other European, I suppose, Rally 4 competitors to get to the end would obviously be fantastic. It'd be a fantastic result. But look, we'll just go out, see what we can do, really, enjoy ourselves. But yeah, we've put in the hard work now. So if you put in the work before, it's not as daunting.
Right. And is it early days yet for next year? Or, if you go to Spain, will this give you a taste for more ERC events? Or is that not really on the plans for next year?
I haven't really looked too far ahead yet. I think if we get through this weekend in Spain, because it has been quite a long year, we've done quite a number of events, really. I think I was just looking back, we've done 14, 15 events. So there's been a lot of time and a lot of work has gone into this year. So once we get through Spain, then I think we'll sit back and go back to the drawing board and see what's on the cards for next year.
Brilliant. Well, look, we're all going to be fascinated and interested to see how you get on in Spain. And just before we wrap up, I suppose, Rally in itself has been, from a female competitor perspective, it was ahead of its time. We had a female world champion, etc. Now, I suppose if we look at the leading teams or the main works teams, we haven't had a female driver in a long time. But what do you feel, the sport needs to do to encourage more women to be involved?
I suppose, look, if you've the ability and the passion for the sport, whether you're male or female, go for it. If you really enjoy it, it's something that I've grown up in. A lot of my friends, they don't understand it. They don't come to the events. But I would say to anybody, if you do have the passion for it, if you've the ability for it, give it a go. There's a lot of different ways. You can sign up, become a marshal, you can become part of the team, get stuck in, or just like I did at the start, the two of us, we just jumped in, had a bit of fun and see where it went. So that's really how I would encourage it. If you enjoy it, if you think it's something you like, give it a go. There's nothing to lose, really.
A huge thanks to Grace for giving me a bit of time earlier, because I know she's extremely busy prepping for Spain. They're traveling out very shortly, and certainly, we're all going to be very interested to see how herself and Ryan get on in that ERC. And not only is there a chance for them to compare themselves to the ERC competitors, they also get to compare themselves to the WRC guys as well. And Kevin, you caught up with Tim Hort earlier.
Yeah, Tim from Michelin, it was fascinating at the start of the year when he talked about the snow tires, and we said we were getting back on again before the end of the year. Like how his passion for tires and all, it's just, it was a joy to listen to him. And, I think personally, I found the way he explained the tarmac tires very interesting, and it broke it down in the way that I understood. So I hope everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did. So without further ado, we'll hear from Tim.
Yeah, look, tires. I suppose it's all driven by the FIA. We used to use slick tires, completely slick, no cuts or no compromise on the tires. We had 100% slicks and wets. About 2014, the FIA decided that it was a bit dangerous guys leaving service park on a 100% slick tire and doing a loop with 3 stages, and the weather can change drastically. So they decided that the slick tire, the new slick tire, was going to actually have an element of opening in the tire. So there's about 22% void in the tire now. So every tire has a little bit of capability for rain, for a little bit of water. So you're not completely cut out on the wrong tire. So what we would call a normal slick tire at the moment, that's got some capability for wet. The idea at the time was that we were going to have one tire completely. There was going to be no wet tires anymore. It's going to be one all-round fitment. They thought 22% maybe would be enough. But we found out then throughout kind of 15, 16 that actually we did need a rain tire still. So they modified the regulations again. So we now have a slick, which is the tire we all recognize, and we have the wet, which has about 28% void and looks more like a road tire. So yeah, that's the difference at the moment between the wet and the slick.
And within them two categories, then there's compounds. what is, is there a major difference in the compound of each grade of tyre then?
I suppose the easiest way to look at it is if you go straight to the wet, we have two wet patterns. We'd have an FW, which is a very deep pattern wet, which would be for a monsoon condition. And FW stands for full wet. And we have an MW, which would be our wet weather tyre, which would be for, not too much standing water, but a fully wet stage. So for those two tyres, there's only one compound available.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on then to slicks, we have 4 options. And roughly speaking, you can take it in 10-degree increments. You have the super soft, which goes from -5 to 5. We'd call that the Monte Carlo tyre. So you're looking for a tyre that where the rally will run, even though if it's in a minus conditions. We don't really see that here because the rally tends to get cancelled if the conditions are very slippery and icy, because the services can't get into the stages. We had an icy rally in Galway maybe back in 16, I think it was, where we lost stages in the morning because there was ice and the crews couldn't get in. So the super soft would go from -5 to 5. Then we have the soft, which goes from 5 to 15, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the medium, which is 15 to 25, and we have the hard, which is 25 to above. Now these bands are very flexible, and it would depend on the driver, on how aggressive the tyre is. So but roughly speaking, they're the bands that they fall into.
Okay. And then we see like in road cars the development that tyres, because like the tyre is the contact between the car and the road, like how vital it is, and like these are continually being developed for the road use. Is it the same with rally, and is the tyres continually being tweaked and upgraded all the time?
Yeah, it would be a constant part of my job. I would be at tests in different parts of Europe. The range is being worked on all the time. It's down to money, really. At the end of the day, we have a certain amount of money for development. So we look at the range, month to month, and we see where there's maybe a little bit of scope for improvement, and we work on that. We have a new tyre coming out in November now, which is the new soft tyre to replace the current soft we have. So yeah, it's a budget thing. We have a certain amount of money to spend, so we'll spend what we have. But yeah, there is always some little tweaks and work going on. Yeah. This is a compound tweak rather than a sculpture tweak. So it's it would look like the same tyre, but it's a change in the rubbers.
Yeah, and would the driver notice a massive difference, with on the car, or like is it sometimes in the head as much as anything else, or?
No, if the tweak is that small, it won't be done. Really, it's not worth it for us. It needs to be a substantial step, as we call it, to go through the development cycle. Like we would probably try different compound tweaks all the time in different championships, and we have the advantage of being, at the circuit racing, and we're at different places all the time. So if they find a tweak and they run maybe a prototype batch, and the driver feels there is a big step, then we'll go and do a round. But if it's a small tweak, it probably won't get through.
Okay. And then we've seen here in Ireland this year, like, and I'm sure this is the same all across Europe, like rallies and sometimes stages, and sometimes rallies been like a tenth of a second deciding. Like, how vital is it to have the right tyre? Yeah, and I think a lot of that's down to the R5 category, Rally 2 category. But like, how vital then is it to have the right tyres on? Like, what is it? Well, a compound could be the difference in winning the rally and losing the rally at times.
Definitely, it can. Yeah, we saw that in Donegal this year. I think the first loop in Donegal was a very sobering one for me, anyway. There was such a variety there. It was wet out on the stage. It was dry here. It was, it was impossible to get it right. Sometimes you can get a situation where over the 3 loops of stages, it's actually it balances out, so it doesn't actually matter which one you're on. But you see it yourself at the end of the loop. That there was always a compound that was the right one.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be foolish enough to say that I always get it right, because I don't.
Yeah,
It's down, I suppose, the team themselves and the driver and the crew have to make a decision. It's their decision in the end of the day, and a big part of it is whether they commit to the compound then. Because if the compound, for example, is a little bit hard, and they know it's a bit hard, and they know that, and they go really, really hard and work the tire, then it can come good and really deliver. So, for me, rallying is down to the crew and the driver, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Donegal earlier this year. Like, the weather conditions were, crazy. That it was dry and wet, one thing or another. How do you have you got a weather crew there working in conjunction with yourselves, or how do you predict what the weather's going to do? I suppose is what I'm trying to say.
Look, everybody's got their feet on the ground, haven't they? The mobile phone has made it so much easier to get people on the ground and have contact on the stages, but you try your best, but the weather moves so fast, and how quickly a stage can dry can vary as well, and the wind and how warm the ground is. So we try our best. I try and make sure if there's two of us there, one of us is in service and one is out on the stages. You're trying to spread your bets a little bit and try and get it right, but we're only one cog in the wheel. The team, the guy running the car will have an opinion, the driver, the co-driver sometimes, and they'll have trusted people out on the stages as well. They're used to working with and know how hard they want to go and how confident they are in the wet, or how confident they are in gravelly conditions. So it has to, for me, the crew have to make the final call, don't they? And they're in the car.
And do you go out and do a recce of the stages? Like, I know, talking to one driver, and they can tell almost by the type of tire on the road how quickly it'll dry or whatever. Like, is that something that you'd be looking at as well, on the lead up to the event as well?
Yeah. It won't always be me, but somebody will be going around the stages looking at the type of tire. We do a kind of a summary then of what type of conditions, but the biggest one of all is on the morning. Right. The weather and how wet or dry it is and what the temperature looks like. And the online apps are really helpful as well to try and predict. So we're looking at, ordering the tyres weeks beforehand and trying to have them on the truck. We can't just wave a magic wand and have tyres appear in the back of the truck in Letterkenny. It's not. Yeah. It doesn't happen like that, unfortunately. I wish it did sometimes, but it doesn't.
And sometimes, we see drivers out at the start of the stages and one thing and another, and they're adjusting the tyre pressures. Does that make a huge difference then? Is it down to, again, points of a bar or whatever, that the temp or the pressure? Can that make such a huge difference?
Yeah, it does. And I think that the further up the food chain you go in rallying, you see how obsessive they become about pressures. Some crews it's the co-driver, some crews it's the driver. It makes a huge difference. Yeah. That would be a big part of my job. It's 0.1 of a bar you're adjusting by. Start pressure, leaving service, warming up the tyres, the start pressure just before the stage starts, trying to get it close as you can to the stage start before you put the final pressure check in. And then, of course, you've got the drivers have to be very adjustable, because they might have to sit then for 10 minutes at the start line. You're losing your whole plan then is gone out the window. So that's where the skill of the driver and the crew come in.
To get the tyres back into their operating zone as such, then, really, is it?
Yeah, and the operating zone that they like. Some crews would like a little bit more pressure. Other crews are comfortable with a bit of movement in the car, and it's down to their preference.
So that kind of that answers my next question. Like, do certain crews handle, or manage their tyres better? You talked about a little 3 stages. Some crews might get the best out of it in the first stage, where some might get, by the third stage that they're really bringing the tyres into their own, are they? Or?
I think it depends what stage they are in the rally, isn't it? The first stage out the block, some people are settling themselves in, other people are going absolutely hard right to the floor from the very first kilometre. So that comes down to experience and what a guy's there to do. Is it his first weekend in the car, or is he fighting for? Is he, if a guy's a minute ahead and he's got nothing to fight for, it's about managing the pace then and keeping your concentration. So the way you're wearing the tires is going to be a it's going to be a very different day to if you're buying a battle, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, yeah, if, you know, say somebody was a minute behind, would you advise them then maybe to go on a safe tire? Then is there such a thing as a safe tire, or you know, is it just does the battle dictate the tire? Is that maybe a strange way of putting it?
I think it's the crew will know themselves where they are on the day, and there is a safe choice. Yeah. Sometimes the weather dictates that there's only one choice and there's no real decision to be made. You know, you look at the temperature, you look at the condition of the road, and yeah, listen, it's easy. It's going to be this tire. But you know, other times there is a bit of pace to be had by taking a chance, and guys will do it, and that's another experience thing, isn't it?
You know, to start to wrap things up, like, you know, we see, as I say earlier on, that, you know, stages, you know, it's been won by seconds or points a second. Like, can tires will there always be more development in tires, or have we reached the point that you think it can't go any further?
Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody over the weekend. Actually, I was in Brands Hatch at a circuit event, and it is always ongoing, you know. And it's not just tires; it's brakes, it's suspension, dampers. You know, there's pace being found all the time, even in controlled formulas. You say, okay, this is the third year we've been at this track with the same car, and yet it's getting faster and faster and faster. So the teams are always finding extra pace. That brings extra pace on the tire and extra strain on the tire. So we need to keep up with that with new materials, new construction methods. So that's all ongoing. That's happening every month.
I can suppose, like, you know, probably back in the 80s, the guys driving, you know, the Quattro thought you know, this was the be all and end all. It didn't get any better, but everything, as you say, just keeps evolving the whole time. And like the tires from back then are probably, you wouldn't recognize them from the tires today.
No, because the brakes would be so much better now that they would give the tires too much of a hard time. You know, and that's because everything else has come up.
And do you still get the great satisfaction from seeing new tires being developed, and you know, all the time? And does that give you great job satisfaction that you can bring out a new tire and say this could be the one that will make the difference?
It is, yeah, it is. And you know, every tire manufacturer will have that. Like we have a new tire coming out in November, and it'll plug a gap that I think maybe was there on the cooler side of the range. And I've been to the initial tests in France for over the last few weeks, and they've shown us what it can do, and it's fantastic to see whatever they found something else. And I wouldn't even know what they found, to be honest, because that product development team are at work in their own kind of zone, so I wouldn't even know what they're doing with the mixes and the construction, but they found something with this new tire. So and every other brand would have the same thing, I'm sure. You know, there's always new tires coming out, and there's new dampers coming out, and there's new brake pads coming out. There's always something. Yeah, it's very satisfying for me to know that I'm working for, you know, a company that can bring this kind of development, and they have an interest in rallying as well, which is another thing.
Absolutely. And you know, we used to always, you know, hear about, you know, like Ford or whatever, you know, one on a Sunday, you know, sell on a Monday. Does that feed down into the road tires as well? You know, like these developments, does that trickle down through?
And the technology trickles down through. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the pattern for like on our very high end track day tires, like the Pilot Sport Cup 2s, if you look at the pattern on that and look at the pattern on our, you know, slick rally tires, it's a very similar pattern. You can see that we've drawn from there whatever R&D they've used to find the exact shape of the contact patch and the design on the rubbers. You can see exactly where it's come from.
Excellent. Well, Tim, I really appreciate you taking the time, and as I say, it's been a pleasure chatting to you once again.
All I can say is my thoughts are with them in Donegal this weekend. It's not, you know, it's lovely to be on, but I know I'm only here because you don't have Sam and Callum and all the other guys on to regale you with their battles of the weekend. So I appreciate the time.
So we'd just like to echo Tim's comments there, you know, pass on our deepest condolences to the families and the people of Creasley. It's been horrifying watching the story unfold this last few days. Just still can't get our mind around what happened, you know. So wishing them, you know, what words can we say, you know, just wishing them that, you know, at this time of need, that there's people around them to look after them, and, you know, to stay strong. You know, it's a dark day for them. Lovely to see the Amber Barrett scoring the goal for Ireland last night to take Ireland through to the World Cup. You know, it's sometimes the darkest times, you know, there's always a chink of light. So it was nice to see that, wasn't it, Conor?
I was indeed. You know, it's just, I think words fail us at
Yeah.
times like this. And what do you call it? You know, just your heart goes out to the family and friends of all of those that were caught up in this.
Yeah, so I think all those 10 people, like, may they rest in peace, and, you know, our thoughts and prayers are with the people that faced at this difficult time, you know. So, but, you know, I suppose then on breaking news this weekend too, or this week, James Fulton has signed then to sit with Craig for Rally Japan, and then going into 2023. Brilliant for James. This, you know, this could be, you know, it's well deserved. When you look at the names he has sat with over the years, like it's you know, it's great that, you know, he's made the final step up, because he has served his time. He has come up through the sport. You know, he started here in Ireland. He has competed across in the World Championship with Josh. You know, he's done events in America. He's been out in the Middle East. You know, he's a hugely experienced competitor.
Absolutely, he's earned his stripes, okay. And then in addition to the competition side of things, he's also been doing some of the testing with Craig back in the Hyundai days last year and the year before. So, you know, certainly it won't be his first time, or either of them first time with each other. So that's good to see. And, you know, very sad to see Paul stepping aside. He's had a fabulous career in WRC, and Paul's, you know, will be there in Japan to help James, you know, to get bedded in, etc.
And Craig's post there as well, as in social media, he was very quick to, you know, to point out that Paul's not retiring. You know, he's stepping back from the WRC commitments. You know, they're going to have many more adventures. You know, we've all seen Craig's, you know, love of come back and competing in Ireland in certain events and one thing and another. So like that, you know, there's a chink of light that might continue. You know, with the likes of Killarney Historics or a few events like that he wants to go and do for a bit of fun. So, you know, it looks as if Paul's going to be back for those type of events as well.
Yeah, which is great to see. You know, we're lucky, you know, a very experienced co-driver, and he's one of our own, and we get to see him, you know, competing on home soil. And I know in the past he's expressed, you know, one of his greatest achievements was picking up the Historics title. So I would say he'll be looking for a fastest time in Mall's Gap at some point as well in the future.
That's for sure. That is for sure. Yeah, so that was episode 35. So once again, please like, share, comment, rate, all those things, as we said at the start there, is hugely important. So thanks very much for listening, and until the next time, take care, speak soon, and bye.